The City of Mount Juliet will have a public hearing concerning the following two items on second and final reading. These are the four items we will be hearing. First is to amend the fiscal year 2021 budget to transfer funds for signal projects within the Capital Projects Fund. The second is to amend the fiscal year 21-22 budget to accept insurance proceeds and appropriate funds for the replacement of police vehicles and to repair Public Works shed. And that actually captures two separate ordinances, I believe. And the final one is out of city sewer service for 131 Cedar Grove Church Road, Cedar Grove Missionary Baptist. The public is invited to comment. If you have a comment on any of these items, I would invite you to come forward and address the Board of Commissioners. If you have comments on any other items, we will hear public hearings at 6:30. Seeing no one, if there's no objections, we will adjourn the public hearing and reconvene at 6:30. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners. We're here for our regularly scheduled meeting. I will call this meeting to order. I declare a quorum present. We have 4 of the 5 members of our elected body here, so we meet the qualifications for a quorum. I'll set the agenda as published. If there's no objections, we have the baskets in the back. If you want to follow along, there's an agenda in each of those. You can follow along online. We have a relatively short 66-page agenda, 4 items on consent and 7 items to be considered outside of consent. At this time, I'll ask our fire chief, if he would, Chief Luffman, to lead us in the invocation and pledge.
Thank you, sir. If you would pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, you have entrusted this elected body and administration as stewards of your creation. Please guide their hearts as they make decisions. May they seek you first in all they do together. And as we give you our business, our suppliers, our customers, our citizens, and our workforce, may we be always mindful of their service. We confess that we are very little without you, Lord, and our trust is in you completely. Dear God, we humbly implore you to look down on the nations that are now engaged in war. Do not count your people's sins against them, but grant them true repentance, that the ill of the human heart may be conquered by your spirit of gentleness and righteousness. Look in mercy on those immediately exposed to peril. Comfort the prisoners, relieve the suffering of the wounded, and show mercy on the dying. According to your good and gracious will, remove the causes and occasions of this war and restore peace among the nations through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Gracious Father, we pray for the aggressor as well. God, we ask you break his heart for those that he has attacked and have him see the pain that he has caused through the eyes not painted in hate. Almighty God, you lend your strength to all those who are there for us in times of crisis, fear, and hurt. You give courage to the military abroad and first responders in our homeland who continue to do this important work as they are called to do, looking beyond the risk for the sake of those who need your help and protection. Continue to bless our city, and may you be glorified, Almighty God. In Christ's name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on February 28th. Is there a motion? Motion. I have a motion and a second on those. Any changes, comments, or questions? All right, all in favor of the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes carry. Next item on the agenda is citizen comments. This is your opportunity to address the Board of Commissioners. Unlike the Planning Commission, we don't take comments at each individual item. You may be called upon to speak if you represent an item, but this is the one opportunity that you have to guarantee to address the board. We just ask that you keep the comments on topic about items that are impacting our city, and we're asking you to avoid personal attacks or anything like that. We'll recognize you for 3 minutes. We reserve the right to terminate the comments at any time, but if you would like to address the board, I ask you to come to the podium at this point. Name and address for the record.
All right. How you doing, folks? Ray Render, 5413 Pisano Street, right here in Mount Juliet, Guides Country, Tennessee. So many of y'all know me as the Deputy District Director for Congressman John Rhodes here in the 6th District, but tonight I come to you as just a Mount Juliet citizen and also a member of the Wilson County Health Council. So I know I've probably emailed you some of this information, or at least got it to Kenny and Sheila, and they've been nice enough to forward it around. But it's that time of year where we start to talk about Walk Across Wilson. So that's going to be coming up here in just a few weeks. So the Walk Across Wilson, this is the 7th year. Kind of long story short, if you walk or exercise about 30 minutes a day, that's roughly about 1.5 miles of walking. If you did that for a month, you will have traversed or captured enough miles to have walked across Wilson County, therefore the name. That's how it got started some years back. As a few of y'all remember, I know Kenny and some of y'all others jumped out with us a few years ago, and we did walk across Wilson to kick that off. But this year, the kickoff event, and this is what I'd like to invite all of y'all to join us if you can. Some folks back here too, dignitaries of the city, if you will. So on Saturday, March the 26th, okay, I don't have that written down, but I think I did email it to you. So on Saturday, March the 26th at 9 a.m. We're going to meet right at the train station parking lot, and we're going to walk about a mile up the road, roughly Camp Bow Wowish in that area. Turn around, walk back to the train station. Okay, now I realize that'll be a couple of miles that way. If you need to exit at that point, you can. However, we'll probably turn around and go another mile or so down. So Kenny gets mad if we don't, walk a lot of miles when we do this. So therefore we've got to get about 4 in to make him happy. No, so but we'll walk about another mile down the other way and back. So roughly 1 hour if you want to block out from 9 to 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, the 26th. That'll be our kickoff event. We're inviting dignitaries to join us for that. So city dignitaries, if you can join us on the Mount Juliet section, that would be great. We are doing this simultaneously in Watertown and Lebanon. So we want you to join us there. You've got the information here. You've got the QR code. It's going to go live on the 27th. I won't say a whole lot about it. I'll let you go click on the QR code. That'll take you to the Walk Across Wilson Facebook page. This is really a fundraiser for kids in school. That's how it got started out. But we have also added a piece to it where organizations in the community can get involved as well. They earn $5 per participant for their school. Would like to thank really our big sponsors, always Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital. There are other sponsorship opportunities. So I don't know, I emailed this to you, but I'll send it to you. If you know of folks that would like to sponsor, we are going to do T-shirts. Once again, $5 per participant goes to every child that participates. It goes to their school. The organizations that choose to participate, it's $5 toward the nonprofit of their choice. So anyway, I do appreciate your time tonight. If you've got a quick question, Mayor, anybody, I'll answer it. If not, I think I've gone over everything. So y'all know how to get in touch with me. Reach out to me if you need me. So,
All right.
Thank you. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else for citizen comments?
Lance Harrington, the owner of 45 East Caldwell Street, and I'm here for the rezone first meeting, I think. So it's my first go around. So any questions or for me?
How are you tied into the,
To the
like,
pro-
are you a resident or?
Yes, ma'am. I live at 45 East Caldwell. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you support the rezone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for citizen comments? All right. Seeing none, we will close citizen comments. We'll move to commissioner report and comments. I'll recognize Commissioner Mullally. Recognize for 5 minutes.
All righty. Have 4 things. One, to make people aware, trying to promote the C-Click Fix app, which is a free app on your mobile phone. It's just like it sounds. C-S-E-E, Click Fix. And all you have to do is download it. It's a community-driven app for the purpose of reporting non-emergency issues to the city. For example, if there's a pothole you see it needs repairing, a downed tree blocking a roadway, non-functioning signal or pedestrian signal, litter violations, breaking the sewer line, any non-emergency, the city, it goes directly to the city. And so they can address it right there. You don't have to bother with trying to look up a number to the city. Second, yesterday, March 13th was, let me find it here. March 13th was National Canine Veterans Day. It's a day set aside to honor and commemorate the service and sacrifice of American military and working dogs throughout history. And so I would like to honor Sergeant Khaki, who was my oldest son's bomb dog in Afghanistan during his time as a dog handler in the Marines. Not only did Sergeant Khaki save his life on numerous occasions, but saved many others Marines as well. After her deployment with my son, she had PTSD, had to go to rehab. She was rehabilitated and redeployed for a second tour. So a special thank you to Sergeant Khaki, all the other canines out there. And of course, we recognize and thank our very own Mount Juliet Milo. And I believe that at some point soon, we are going to be getting another canine. So we'll be glad to see that. And so that leads into the Mount Juliet the city is going to, let's see, promote a Mount Juliet Veterans Memorial Wall where let me find it here. Anyway, we're going to be selling bricks, and I've already bought mine. They're $100, and you have 3 lines, 18 characters per line to put anything on there you want to honor someone or anything like that. And so Justin's going to be promoting that from the city. Yeah, and it will be located at Robinson Park. Let's see, and construction will begin as soon as enough funds are raised. And the Robinson Park, of course, is across from Valley Center. So be watching for that. Let's see. And the last thing, which I didn't know about, or I would have put it in my newsletter, on March 26th is the Mount Juliet Craft and Vendor Fair at the Mount Juliet Community Center in Charlie Daniels Park from 10 to 4. The theme is March into Easter, but there will be kids activities and photos, and Easter Bunny will be there, and there's 70 plus crafters and vendors. And this is going to benefit it's a nonprofit called Give a Little Christmas. So there you go. So y'all be sure and go to that if you can. It's from 10 to 4 on March 26th at the Mount Juliet Community Center in Charlie Daniels Park. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, we'll go to our Vice Mayor Ray Justice.
Thank you, sir. I want to echo what Commissioner Mullally said about the C-click fix. We've been talking about something, and most of you know, as you're driving down the road, you're going to see something, you want to report it. I would suggest you don't do this while you're driving, by the way. That would not go well for you. But there's some instructions that I was given, and I'm going to read these just in case. But then tomorrow sometime, our public information officer, Justin Beasley, is going to do a live video of how this works. Is that correct, Ms. Beasley?
We've done one.
Okay, it's already there and posted and
We
everything?
did it 2 Fridays ago, and it was on Channel 5. They did a little blooper.
We're going to do some more of it.
Yeah,
We
we're
want
going
to
to
train the people.
We're going
right?
to promote the heck out of it. That's how we do it.
Absolutely. So the C-click fix, you download the app from the App Store. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then you go to the little App Store on your phone. You take a picture of whatever the problem may be. Say, the mayor's staggering through traffic and you're worried about him. You want to notify the police, right? He's having a bad day. So
Good
we
example.
want to add that location as well. So then you want to file it under the correct category, hit send, and then, of course, our public works director or our chief of police will immediately jump out of bed and come running down and fix it if it's 2:00 in the morning, correct?
That's right.
All right. That's what I was told to say, by the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, the C-click fix, as Commissioner Mullally said, is going to be, it's an awesome little app. It will help us make Mount Juliet even better than it already is, if that's possible. So that takes care of my responsibility. Mr. Beasley told me I had to do this or there would be consequences.
Natural born cells.
There you go. I want to take just a second and I want to go over some comments and get an update. Made some comments at the last meeting about how disappointed I was in Wilson County and what they were doing about our ambulance service. Not only to Mount Juliet, but I believe the rest of the county. I want to make it clear, first of all, that the reason that I specified Mount Juliet is because that's where I was elected to represent. I feel my heart goes out for the folks in the other sections of the county where they may have an issue with the time frame that an ambulance might be able to get to them, but that's not an area that I represent. So it's not some place that, I'll be making a lot of public statements about. Before I get into this, it seems like there were some misconceptions also where we had made some comments in the past about a privatized ambulance service. And that being the case, what I want to do is, if it's all right, Mayor, I'd like to ask Chief Luffman to come up here and give us an update on what we're looking at now. It's going to be a little bit different, I think, than what people had anticipated. And obviously what people had posted on Facebook is what they thought was going to happen in the city of Mount Juliet.
Yes.
So,
No commitment was ever made by the city. The only commitment that we did make was to investigate and to bring back to this elected body all of the data that we had so that you could make an informed decision. It was a long process. We went through every facet that we covered through that. It's on hold right now. We have that data. You have that data. At such time that it becomes proper to bring that to you for a vote, if that's something we want to consider, then that will certainly be brought forth. We have also looked into and investigating what it would take for the city of Mount Juliet to run their own ambulance service inside the city limits. We're acquiring that data. We've got a lunch tomorrow with a consultant, and we'll be presenting that data as we acquire it to you as well.
Okay, so the numerous meetings and fact-finding missions that you guys have been on have brought you to the point where you actually got a plan A and a plan B. Plan A being a privatization, and plan B being the city creating our own.
Yeah, they're not
ambulance service.
prioritized in any way. They're just going to be presented. I wanted to make sure that I had every answer to every question for you before I brought that to you. It is a little painstaking and it takes some time, but I think that you'll be pleased with the results.
Okay. We had sent an offer up to the county that we would use our staff to man their ambulance services, freeing some of their staff up to be able to take care of some of the other, what I would call underserved areas in the county. What was the result of that offer that we made to them?
We spoke with their EMS chief and their fire chief on the afternoon of February the 4th. That was a Friday at 1:30. And we made that proposal then with the benefits of it would free up 4 people per day, and that would allow them to open or maintain a presence in Statesville and Noreen. The things that they're, receiving the worst press on is, the fact that those stations are 90% of the time closed. There was an immediate concentration on a lot of the painstaking logistics and legalities of it all. I explained that, this is not a perfect fix. This is just one agency reaching out to another to provide aid during their time of need, similar to what they did for us 8 years ago when we were, a fledgling new department. They were there for us, and this was an opportunity to kind of, pay that back. They advised me that they were going to take it to their legal counsel. I said, like to have an answer in a week. Called back my counterpart the morning of February the 11th, and it was still in legal. March the 4th. I'm sorry, March the 4th. I'll get sped up here in a minute. But on that March the 11th, I had contacted Mayor Manis, and we had spoke about him contacting his counterpart, the county mayor. The county mayor, if help me if I got this right, the county mayor was for the proposition, but everyone underneath him was against it.
I mean, okay. Well, I would like to make it clear that what we were offering them was a solution. It wasn't a ploy. We're all Wilson County, and if there's anything that we can ever do to help Wilson County out, then that's what we want to do. I think it's sad that anybody would think anything other than that. I would also make it clear, and you can help me with this. There were comments made about we were stealing employees from WEMA. Did you hold a gun to any of those employees that we've hired and make
No,
them?
sir, I did not.
Okay, I just wanted to
No,
clarify.
we don't have a recruiting program. We don't go out and recruit talent or things of that nature. We put out, an application period. These folks are, 18 years of age or older, able to make their own decisions. They fill out the application, submit their resumes. We do consideration. If they're a good fit, they get hired. And it's not, the fact that they work at WEMA is neither for nor against them during that time. It's where their qualifications are. It does aid us that we know their personalities and we know things like that. But right now they're under a great deal of stress and every nerve is exposed. And so it's tough for them right now. But all that Chief Edwards and I do, we work on cash, conditions, and culture. And that's what we have to offer. And if they see that as a better fit for their lifestyle and their family, then they will apply. And if they're a fit, we will hire them.
Hey, Vice Mayor, I'll
Sir.
say I didn't write down your exact start time, but I think
I'm
your
fine.
5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
But with this, it is an agenda item here tonight, so we can.
There was a numerous comments that were made, and I wanted to make sure that those were addressed, and I didn't want to take away from what we're going to address here tonight with the agenda items. So thank you all very much, both of you, for the work that you're doing. Thanks. Go ahead. Thanks.
Well, next we'll recognize Commissioner Trevette.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, Chief, thank you for always looking out for the best interests, you and the Deputy Chief, for the safety of our fire department. Obviously, also would like to just thank the families tonight that came out and also online. It's always good to see friendly faces and get a chance to meet some new neighbors that are within our community. I was hoping that there'd be a new family that was here tonight, but they found out that they're part of the county, not the city, so they're going to be attending that meeting. But I still invited them out and hoped that they would make it, but it's okay. So obviously, with the last week and a half, it was my first meeting to Willoughby Station's annual meeting for their HOA and their community. It was an honor to get out there and meet some of our residents, as well as get an opportunity to see our city leadership there in presence also. Just representing our city, from our police department to our fire department to our even our vice mayor and mayor was there. So thank you everybody for showing up there to support my district. Just coming up, obviously, the parks is looking for some part-time help. I thought I'd throw, some little tidbits in there to help out the parks. So they're looking to backfill some labor there for some part-time help, along with the Easter. I think I'll piggyback over off of Commissioner Mullally for April 5th for the Easter in the park from 5:30 to 6:30. I'm looking forward to that. Taking my 6-year-old out there. And then obviously the last thing is I'd like to also I feel like we're promoting the C-Click Fix tonight. But you know what? What's nice about this is the fact that we've got a system in place and that we're always looking for new technology. And obviously for us to be able to, have that immediate, whether if it's calling the emergency sewer hotline or the issues that right now the city has corrected 91 issues. But it also gives us transparency. A lot of us always take that opportunity as we're driving up and down the street. We see something. We always want to say something. And whether if it's going to be a near miss or a good catch, I'm all about safety and I'm all about making sure that we're, being the eyes and ears of our community. So, obviously this app is going to go do a great job for the city, but it's also the staff. I think our staff is probably, by far some of the best men and women that I've been around, taking care of the city, whether if they take pride in picking up garbage or if they're actually out there fixing a problem, electrical or just fixing whatever's needed. To me, I think that's awesome. So I just want to give kudos to the Public Works team and also anybody else that I may have missed out there. I think that concludes my report, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. I'll add, happy approximate Pi Day to anybody who follows, but thank Willoughby Station for their invitation to address the crowd there and speak to the Homeowners Association meeting. I also thank the Noon Rotary Club. They were gracious enough to invite me today to speak to them. And then Wednesday, I will be on a panel with the our three mayors here in Wilson County for part of Leadership Middle Tennessee. And I'll just say I appreciate everybody. And I don't know if anyone's mentioned it or not, but I was asked to mention the C-Click Fix app. So I hate to be the only one to not bring it up. So it is really a nice thing, a nice feature that Public Works has worked so hard to be able to provide. And I think it just adds another opportunity to be able to report things. And I know you're out on a walk sometime, you see something, you don't want to try to make a mental note and get home and make an email. And if it's after hours, you're not going to make a call or whatever. So this is just an opportunity. If you're out and about and you see something, just take advantage of it. Just another avenue that we hope to be able to raise the bar of customer satisfaction. So anyway, I thank everybody involved with that. And with that, I will recognize our city manager for his comments.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And thank you everybody for coming out tonight, and for those watching at home. And it's so odd that the mayor and the commission would mention the Click Fix app, a C-Click Fix app. I was actually at one of our grocery retailers this weekend, and there was a sale on strawberries, but you had to have an app. And unfortunately, I didn't have the app, so I didn't save on strawberries. So just like everything else in life, everything is converting to apps. So please get that app on your phone. And also the other one, apps are great. They can be a friend. But I want to thank the elected body and the commission for all the support that you give staff, in particular when it comes to public safety and also infrastructure. Mr. Barlow, thank you for your presentation tonight. I really appreciate the commission stand behind those things. It means a lot to us and the citizens here in Mount Juliet. I also would like to thank Public Works, Police, and Fire for your efforts this weekend. We've had many odd weather events over the last several years, everything from tornadoes in December, tornadoes in March. I remember when I was a kid, we'd have snows in maybe March and even April. But it was just odd to have a winter weather event this weekend. And I appreciate Mr. Barlow and his team for getting out. And you probably saw the brine. I think we're one of the few cities in Middle Tennessee that's got a brine operation. I think it makes a big difference. So thank you. Great job on the roads. Thanks to the citizens for staying off the roads as much as they could. And also for the quick response to some of the potholes. There was one that I hit myself this weekend on Central Pike. I know that's not in the city, but I think our team responded and repaired it because it was done first thing this morning, and it was beyond a pothole. I mean, it was like literally your whole tire would go in it. And so great job on that. And also, if anybody has any water coming down from your ceiling, we got quite a few calls about people actually got snow in their attics via their roof ridge vents. And because if your house faces north, front or back, you may have got some snow up there. So you might want to check your attics to make sure. My son in particular got several inches in his attic, and it was just simply from where the snow was so fine. And I guess the wind was blowing so hard at about 40 miles an hour, it actually blew snow into the ridge. I've never seen that before in my life. And we got some calls this morning. So might want to check your vents before it gets too warm up there and it melts and then comes into your home. But again, thank you to our citizens, our community, for making Mount Juliet a great place. And we hope to have some new business announcements real soon. Thanks. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And I guess that's a realization that I have ridge vents that run north, south, east, and west. So, wow, maybe that explains some of the strange noises, but there's no water damage that I know. But I'll be good and paranoid now. Well, with that, we'll move on to the business portion of our agenda. I would just ask all the elected officials, if you please move your mic close to your face if you want to be quoted in the paper properly. I was asked to make that announcement. So our first item of business is our unfinished consent agenda. We have 4 items here. I'll read those into the record, which is 8.1, an ordinance approving the request to connect to the Mount Juliet sewer system made by Cedar Grove Missionary Baptist Church of 131 Cedar Grove Church Road, outside the city limits of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, identified as Wilson County, Tennessee, map 50, parcel 68, 8.2, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinance 2021-19 to transfer funds for signal projects within the Capital Projects Fund. And 8.3, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinance 2021-19 to accept insurance proceeds and appropriate funds for the replacement of a police vehicle. And 8.4, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinance 2021-19 to accept insurance proceeds and appropriate funds for the repair of Public Works shed. Sir, have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any questions or comments on the consent agendas? All right, all in favor of the 4 items as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those 4 carry as read. I like that shed. Next item on the agenda is under unfinished business is a resolution interlocal agreement between Wilson County government, WEMA, and the city of Mount Juliet for ambulance service inside the city limits of Mount Juliet. Have a motion? Second. And a second. The item is on the table. I'll start by saying we voted last week to bring back this interlocal agreement, and I know chief and our deputy chief have worked hard to bring this to us. They have offered or sat down and had conversations with their counterparts at the county. And as of right now, they put together their piece and brought it back to us. We haven't gotten anything from the county at this point. There was mention of a conversation I did have with the county mayor. It was a private conversation, not a secret conversation, but I'll say I don't want to quote him or put words in his mouth, but I left the conversation on the impression that he was in support of what we were trying to accomplish here on it. But to this point, and I think from the update we just got earlier, we've not heard anything back from the county. I would still propose passing this interlocal agreement tonight, and I'm going to propose an amendment to that, and I'll go ahead and speak to that. I would like to amend this to say that this interlocal agreement is good for 45 days unless acted on by the county or renewed by ordinance by the city commission. So I don't want to leave this as just an open-ended agreement. And that's my motion. And we have a second on that. Any discussion on the amendment? Vice Mayor?
The only thing that I would ask at this point is that we can pass this. Obviously, it's one-sided at this point.
Yes.
We don't have an agreement. We've got an interlocal suggestion. And I would also ask that whatever we do at this point, we do not stop. We move forward with what I feel like is me personally, I think based on the information we've got now, another idea, and that is the idea of City of Mount Juliet becoming an ambulance providing community. I don't see, they haven't come back to us. I've talked to 2 or 3 members of the MA committee. A couple of them had no idea, except they heard it on the news, and they have not been provided with any other information regarding this. Yeah. So I'm not sure what manner of communication that they're using up there.
Well, I did contact 2 members of the EMA committee, so I contacted one and let them know that this was not a ploy by the city of Mount Juliet to take ambulance service from them. And, quite opposite, we were going to take over that responsibility in the city to guarantee that we had the coverage inside the city limits. And that would potentially free up some bodies to serve those other areas on that. So I was like, I have no ill intent against you. It's just, I have to do everything in my power to make sure the citizens of Mount Juliet are protected and covered. And, this happens to be one of those opportunities where I think it's going to be mutually beneficial to everyone involved in this. And so that's the extent of it. I sense we as this board versus, and, the other part of the agreement, I sense the 2 parties do have, I guess, differing senses of urgency on this matter. So I want to move and do everything that we can here tonight and just leave it out there. If they want to take that opportunity, if they don't, like you said, to me, we do not stop what we're doing here on this side to ensure that our citizens are safe. Any other comments, questions?
As long as that's captured in the minutes, I don't have an issue with it.
Commissioner Mulledy?
I just want to say, I still remain hopeful because it's been my hope from the that we could work something out with the county. We've had the relationship with them for ages, and so I am still hopeful that we'll continue. I do think it's a good plan and a good offer to him because, it's a quote from, who was it? Cooper, I can't think of it's Joey WEMA director, that the program is going down the drain.
Circling the drain was the quote. Yes.
Yeah, circling down the drain. So to me, it's a great offer, and the intent, which I wanted to begin with, was to keep the ambulances where they currently are, and to get the new one for the North Station. So I fully support this. I still remain, like I say, fingers crossed. And I have talked to several of the county commissioners. I'm glad that the Mayor Hutto is in support of it. I have talked to several of the commissioners who aren't opposed to it, but there's what, 25 of them. So that's all. I just really remain hopeful that and then, like you say, then we can feel confident that we exhausted. I mean, just did everything that we could do, but we still have to move forward. Yes, that's all.
And I share the same hope, but I see the reality too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to reiterate it, not to be mean spirited or anything about that, but I think people need to understand why we're doing what we're doing. There are 27 unfilled positions right now. I don't know if that's changed since the last meeting. It's public knowledge that 35 members are actively seeking other employment. 35 is about the size of the Mount Juliet Fire Department. So you have what's the equivalent of our entire fire department out seeking other employment. This is a long-term problem that's going to take some time to fix. And, this is being offered as a stopgap. Fire Chief, did you?
Yes, with those numbers in mind and the time frame that you're referring to, I did have a conversation at the Andrews Cadillac ribbon cutting with Mayor Hutto, and he did offer up a third ambulance for the city of Mount Juliet. It was to my knowledge, or based on the conversation, contingent with a third ambulance for the city of Lebanon. And I also got that offer from an elected county official. But having to, again, my job is to bring you an assessment of where I believe the services coming out of our building is where they're rated at right now. And, they can give us those ambulances, but who's going to staff them? Who's going to staff them? That's been the thing. The most important part of that effort is the personnel, the crew that's there. And if they're at a point right now where they can't staff their existing fleet, how are they going to take on the additional burden of an additional ambulance for Mount Juliet and one for Lebanon?
Chief, right now it seems to be the plan to close the Noreen station and Statesville station.
They February, Joe, correct me, about 90% of the entire month of February, those two were closed.
What's the third station in line to be closed?
That would be the engine over here at Station 3.
Yeah.
And again, and in truth and transparency, that's not a ploy. That's not a shot across the bow or anything. If I was in that position, that's a decision that I would make simply because we exist.
Yeah, it's not a shot across
No,
the bow
yeah.
for me either, but I think anybody watching from home out here needs to fully understand why we're stepping into this. And
Yes.
And I believe it's been 2 times now that we've seen
In recent,
this.
yeah, in as many weeks. Yes, sir.
So that's approximately 1/3 of the staffing inside the city limits.
Yes.
But
Yes,
Mr. Trett.
Chief, first of all, thank you guys. I keep going back to this because of the fact that I've been sitting in many meetings for the last year with this situation back and forth with many options. Obviously, if the city does go back to, plan B, if that's the way that, the city decides, the discussion last year and past meetings, which would be, we would use WEMA as a backup. If the city does move forward with Plan B and, the county actually corrects the issue that they have currently and they backfill these positions over time, will we still have that redundant coverage? Or will this just be Mount Juliet taking care of Mount Juliet?
Well, this is a county service and we're all
Sure.
county residents. And so we pay county taxes
Yes.
and it's not really, I wouldn't call it a backup. They would continue to do what they do in the unincorporated portion of Wilson County. We would just have jurisdictional authority over EMS transport inside the city. Now, that being said, if there's a mass casualty incident out on the interstate and they call for mutual aid, we will go to them. If there's a mass casualty inside the city limits, we will call them, they'll come to us. So it'll just be the addition of another entity performing that service, but ours will be dedicated to the 28 square miles of our municipality.
Thank you. And my last question, if you don't mind, obviously, as things are changing, it seems daily with the staffing issues, are we monitoring the response time and are we keeping track of that?
Yes.
Because I think last time that we were talking, what was it, 4 to 5 minutes response?
Yes, we are. We're keeping up with the number of times that med unit comes from outside of the city of Mount Juliet, from Lakeview, Legardo, and Gladeville. And it's still averaging about 3 to 5 times a day.
And what is that stopping point where it becomes no longer a,
Acceptable.
acceptable? Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it 7, 8 minutes? Or are we looking, because obviously the city needs to make a decision and we want to make sure that we don't hit that threshold.
Well, Chief Edwards and I have accelerated our investigation of what it would take to be a Mount Juliet EMS provider. We are having time with a consultant tomorrow to make sure that the numbers that we have are rock solid. When we have those, I'll bring those to you. As the mayor mentioned, there's a solution out there, but it's light years away for the county. At that point, it would be certainly your decision. I'll make sure you have all the data, but I'll lay it before you as a decision of this elected body if enough is enough.
I'll just end with just let your staff know, thank them for stepping up to fill that gap. Obviously, that's what being part of the county and being part of the bigger team. So just want to thank them as well.
Yeah, they're a good bunch. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, briefly.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Chief, before you leave the microphone, you made a comment to me today in the parking lot when we were having a discussion about time.
Mhm.
You remember that comment? Could you repeat that back for the rest of the commission? About time, tissue?
Oh, yeah, what we're talking about here is a big majority of the calls that we end up with are chest pain, shortness of breath, or some type of seizure or stroke related activity. This is obviously, whether it be cardiac muscle or whether it be brain tissue, once it's lost, it's gone. It doesn't grow back. It can't be repaired. That's what we're operating against. And I think, a lot of times fire chiefs and EMS professionals get kind of, pinholed as to, y'all are, you're being too nitpicky. I don't see it that way. I see it as that's something I can't let my finger up off of. I mean, if we ever do, where does that end? It's always got to be, we've got to be fast, because we're not like, and I've told this committee before, anybody can save a life. Chief Edwards and I can take you in 5 minutes and teach how to save a life. What we're working on today in today's medicine is saving a quality of life. Does that grandfather get to bounce his grandson off his knee, or does he have to be fed through a tube? What kind of existence is. So that's what we're working on diligently. And that's what I want to bring to you so that you can provide that for your constituents and our citizens.
Thanks, sir. Real quick, Ms. Mullally, and I'm directing this to you because I do applaud your enthusiasm. You've been enthusiastic about this and been trying to maintain this relationship. 2012, we were told to put our big boy britches on, and the county said, yeah, we've had a 30-year relationship, whatever it was. They were more than willing and did sever that relationship. And they put us in a position where we had to create our own fire department. And today, I will tell you that while I looked at them outside of my eye, Kenny Rich and some of those guys up there did us a huge favor, because they put us in a position where we created this. And without this, we wouldn't have the opportunity to be able to give emergency medical service to the level that we're going to be able to provide it to the people inside the city limits of Mount Juliet. So they did us a huge favor. I'm sitting here now thinking, while we're a little aggravated about the circumstances, they're probably doing us just as big a favor today. And we just need to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah. That was the 6th item on the agenda on July 2011, what you're referring to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that is probably the best spin I've heard on that resolution, but it did put us in the position to do what we're able to do today. And, we moved, and that was July of 2011, moved into, I think it was September of 2012 was when the vote was held to restart the fire department. And I was telling the Rotary Club today, it wasn't a slam dunk back in 2012, whether we were doing the right thing or not. And the feedback wasn't all roses and hearts either at the time. It was not without controversy. So that moved us to 2013, where we opened the fire department of Mount Juliet, and it started small, and it's been a growth and a work in progress ever since. And we've made steps along the way and done a lot of catch up. For a city at the time, almost 40 years of age, didn't have a fire department. I think we've got some exciting announcements coming. So if you're the taxpayers of Mount Juliet, I think you'll be able to see the dividends on that investment coming soon. So anyway, anyone else, any comments, questions on this? All right. All in favor of the resolution as once amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution carries with a 4-0 vote. With that, we'll move into the new business portion of the agenda. We have 2 ordinances and 4 resolutions. I'll read the first, which is Ordinance 11-1, an ordinance to rezone property known as 45 East Caldwell Street, map 721, parcel 4, from RS40 Single Family Residential to CTC Commercial Town Center. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. The item is on the table. Any questions or comments on this? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That ordinance carries as read. 11-2, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinance 2021-19 to accept insurance proceeds and appropriate funds for the replacement of a damaged city property.
Motion.
Motion and a second. Any questions, comments, or discussions? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Move to resolutions. 11-3, a resolution approving an amendment to the agreement between the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, and Kimberly Horn for construction, engineering, and inspection services on the Belinda Parkway Sidewalk project, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Motion.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any questions, comments? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. 11-4, a resolution approving the commercial purchase and sales agreement for purchase approximately 1.6 acres of land located on Charlie Daniels Parkway from Gary Merritt.
Motion.
Have a motion
And second.
and a second. Vice Mayor, this is under your sponsorship.
Yes, sir. This is the property that we had discussed when we had talked about the new police department versus rehabbing the old police department. And we had talked about the property in front and putting a new police department in front of that property. And so we had asked the city manager to come in with a contract. That contract has been obtained. There were some conditions that were on that contract. I think you've got it. We got to hear, Mr. Marchetti.
Yes.
There were some, if I may.
Yeah.
Mayor. There were conditions on here, and I'll read those to you briefly. Approval from, the closing is contingent on the following: approval from the City of Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners, approval by legal counsel representing the City of Mount Juliet, completion of all environmental studies needed to satisfy all federal, state, and local regulations. Number 4, no real estate commissions to be paid in relation to this transaction. And then the number 5 is that prorated tax to be paid by the seller at or before closing. So it's pretty clear cut as to what the intent was. So
Clarifying question, has anything changed since this was published?
was published.
The agenda? Okay,
Not that I'm aware of. I mean,
thank you.
Mr. Mayor to sign this. Mr. Martin is waiting for our approval to sign this. So I will say, in looking at this property, it actually, Sheila, it actually gives, there's some advantages that only the City of Mountain Juliet is going to have access to. The shared parking, for instance, things of that nature. The cost of the excavation it's going to be minimal compared to what it would be at another site if we were to go to Clemens Road or someplace like that. So that shared parking and that association between the police department and whatever we wind up with in the behind is where a lot of the value comes from in this property.
Anything else?
No, sir.
All
That was
right.
it.
Commissioner Mullally?
Okay, I have some concerns and some unanswered questions. So I'm probably going to go over the 3 minutes so we can do the rounds and then come back. Personally, I was not ready to vote on a purchase contract without further discussion. I had twice indicated my support for an additional work session at the last meeting, as I still have many unanswered questions. At the previous work session, it was my understanding the purpose of the work session was to discuss funding the expansion based on the latest round of bidding of the current location of headquarters. Of those bids, the one selected was the parent company. However, none of that was even talked about. The only thing discussed during the work session was a new proposed 2-story building to be located on a new piece of property without any cost estimates. No money whatsoever was discussed, only an indication to move forward with the purchasing of this property. I don't understand why we're talking about purchasing property when we haven't talked about how much the expansion is going to cost and/or how much a new proposed 2-story building would cost. First, I fully support and completely support our police department and believe they are the best, and I'm so proud of them. I want to fund your much-needed expansion, and I agree it is badly needed. I've toured it. I see the immediate need. My only intention is to protect the city. I don't want the city to purchase property that we can't build on. I want to know prior to purchase whether or not the property is a wise investment, not only for PD, but also for our taxpayers. Honestly, I'm not sure why we wouldn't give other landowners the opportunity to offer up their land as an option for a new building site. It might just be me, but it doesn't seem fair to other landowners. Other land locations were looked at several months ago on paper, and I've never heard anything else about it. Appraisal, what's it worth? I don't see anything in the contract about it. I remember when we were looking at buying the Lyons property on South Rutland for parkland, the city wanted an appraisal before even considering a contract. This property possibly has an active karst on it, which is something along the lines of a sinkhole. Is the site even buildable? If a geotech study showed that a karst was an issue, could it be capped and filled in and therefore built upon? If that were to be the case, how much extra would that cost? I don't see any of these things being considered. I'm not a person that reads contracts all the time. I'm not in a profession that reads a lot of contracts. So I feel it's my duty to go over it with a fine-tooth comb so that I feel comfortable, of what's been proposed. When the original church was built, which is the current headquarters, why was it built in the back of the property instead of the front? I can't help but curious as to why and why the property is never sold before now. Are there any easement restrictions on the property? Page 3 of the contract, which is packet page 52, line 110, number 3 under conditions on closing, is subject to regulations. Now, I'm not an engineer and I don't know what it would be, but what if Public Works wanted to do an additional study that they felt was important enough to be included, but wasn't technically classified as a regulation? Would this contract allow for that? There are exhibits referenced throughout the contract. These may be standard, but I don't know what they say, but since there are, in my 3 minutes? Okay.
I touched nothing.
I don't know what they are since there are no copies. Like I say, I don't read contracts, so I don't know what these exhibits are. For example, Exhibit D is referenced on contract page 6, but it's not selected on page 7 of the contract under number 16. So just an FYI, that may not even be important. Since all the bids came in that were based on expanding the current location of PD headquarters, Wouldn't we now have to send out a third round of bidding since it involves a new piece of property, including a new proposed two-story building? How does this work? And shouldn't this be done prior to signing a purchase of a contract? I would like to know whether the parent company is selected or another company, that they would have employees on site to oversee every step of the building process upon completion if the job is subcontracted out. And I would hope that the developer would wisely choose a contractor that has previous experience building police facilities that meet police department and other standards. I don't know if the city has any control over that or not, but believe that is important. As stated in the contract, this would be a direct FSBO, for sale by owner, agreement with no realtors, as Vice Mayor pointed out, involved on either side. And I'm glad to see that. And that's nothing against realtors. If this contract is going to be approved, I would like to see added to it the following contingencies subject to, and then I'll make a motion, or if you want me to go through them one at a time.
Why don't we, we've got
Okay.
representation here. I'm afraid he may miss a point or two if we don't give him a chance to
Okay.
respond. And our attorney may have some points to make as well.
Sure. I appreciate it, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for your efforts to help us out. And Ms. Mullally, we understand your concern and we want it done the right way too. Speaking with our architects, and you unpacked a lot there, so I'm going to miss some things. But speaking with our architects, in the overall scope of things, a new building out front on that lot is advantageous for us, and it should be a lower cost project than what we originally saw that the different contractors bid out. The advantage of this piece of property than trying to go out and finding a larger piece of property elsewhere is the cost savings we get out of that, simply because it's in addition to our existing property that we have today. We need our existing property that we have today for parking and for part of that building to extend off onto, right? The thing with the parent company, we selected a construction manager. We asked them just to provide the cost to give us an idea of how they would bid projects. But they can build anything we ask them to now that we have a construction manager. We still haven't signed contract, I don't believe, but this contractor that we selected was very heavy in building public safety buildings, and they would have a project manager on site, including an office on site as they built this out. The information about the karst, I passed that along to our architects, and they said it's definitely possible. There's buildings that go on karst all throughout Tennessee. Roads go on karst all throughout Tennessee. It's just a different type of build, and you have to know it's there and to ensure you build your building properly to take care of that issue with the GO. We also spoke with Mr. Martin on geotechnical services to go out and do a study before we finalize this purchase. And we actually had the same person, I think, identified. So we definitely have a process to get that done quickly. So we know that our architects know what they're dealing with, to know for sure if there's going to be any great burden on this. Also looking at the cost, I know you talked about different costs out there, and to be sure that we're getting a good deal for the city and the taxpayers. So we compared the cost for the property just adjacent to it that was recently purchased. That was where the eye doctor is, purchased from the same owner, and they paid about $16.60 per square foot for 35,000 square feet. We're thankfully coming in under with that at $16.57 a square foot. So it's less than what they purchased, I guess, a couple of years ago when they built the eye doctor. And I know that was important with Mr. Martin, because he was definitely trying to get that price down to something that was comparable, and so we could be at the advantage as a city and to buy something for our police department. I don't think I hit everything though.
Probably not.
Probably not, but but I can assure you that we definitely don't want to go on top of something where our building's going to cave in like the Corvette Museum, right?
All right.
But our architects know that it's possible. We brought that up to them, and in fact, one made a joke and said, "We'll just go down and you'll have a basement," right? But we definitely think this is great for us. It's definitely forward movement. Probably one of the biggest investments our city has done in quite some time. And our police department's growing rapidly, and it just makes me nervous every meeting that we continue to push this off. But y'all have definitely got on the ball to get us going into something that's going to provide us that growth that we need, because we're going to keep growing. This city keeps growing, and we really need to break ground on something and get something built.
All right.
Commissioner Trevette, did you have some questions
Okay.
for?
So Captain Chandler, first of all, thank you. And thank you to your team that's been working on this. Obviously, with this being in the right location, my biggest concern is a few things. One is if, why I'm in support of this is because of the fact of right now we've got a great presence with the parks that are currently there.
Mhm.
Obviously, we've got a lot of traffic, a lot of events all throughout the years. So it's always good to have a first responders presence there, along with the middle school that's sitting right there and the elementary school that's right behind that as well. So, and I'm a big favor of this.
Sure.
Obviously, cost is a big a factor for me in the city. And I just want to basically thank, you folks for trying to make sure that we do get under budget. Obviously has there been a discussion with a potential if there was to be moved off site, what that cost would be and how that would disrupt the current staffing as in, for the first responders, with your department?
So
Has there
there's
been any
less
type of-
disruption on a new build like we are planning on doing with this project right now. There was a lot of disruption with the rehab of the existing facility. And when you disrupt, you have to manage around that disruption, and that management does cost extra dollars because you're having to manage a team when instead of coming and working 24/7 straight, they have to work 12 hours here and there to get around court or to get around, our normal operations at a police department. So this new build that we're planning out front is definitely better for us to limit those disruptions.
And then the last thing, I just want to make sure it's noted, was obviously the first option, which was renovating the existing building, which was a church. There was a lot of concern about, obviously the first phase, which would be the new department. And then, of course, having to spend a second amount that was undetermined, bringing the other phase, which was the church, up to the standards of codes today. Is that correct?
Right.
And that was undetermined. So that could have been just an open checkbook. And
Well, that was determined, and I believe in our bid for the
What's
total rehab of the existing facility.
what was that number? Do you know? by
About
chance?
15 million.
15 million on
Mhm.
top of it.
That was one of the, not the lowest, but right there at it.
So 15 million. And then the addition was
The total project was 15.
15 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Vice Mayor, did you have any questions?
No, I mean, I've been involved in this
Mhm.
process and trying to move this forward. I think, and Dr. Captain Chandler, I think everybody knew that I was not a big fan of going in and fix the church.
Sure.
I felt it was better for the police department if they had new facilities. Although I mentioned the word toys again, remember we talked about that?
Absolutely.
I want to make sure. that
Sure.
we get what we need and we're not building a Taj Mahal or something like that.
Right. And y'all definitely be involved in that process. Once we can know for sure this is the direction we're going, then we can invest into our architect and design team to start working on a product that, like I said, was frugal, durable, and functional, right? Nothing grand.
As long as that is, that is the criteria. I will say, you've got some very valid concerns about the contractor process,
Mhm.
which was one of the processes that I had some concerns about early on also when we were talking about this. We're not there yet, but we have to have the property. And there's, I think it's 60 days to close on this. And so the cost features that you were worried about and things of that nature, all that's got to be identified. Before the closing takes place. So that's not something that's going to happen without those things being considered. And I mean, if we got into a situation where they had to have some engineering that when that was done on that, then getting the extension on the contract, we need to. But that gives us 60 days. I think Kenny said that there was, did you say, Ms. Martin, that there was somebody coming tomorrow or to start the process of doing the
Yes, sir.
the
Yeah, I have
environmental and the studies?
Oddly enough, the person that I set up to do this, and I want to say this first and foremost, everything the commission is asking us questions you should. That's why we're a team and we're looking out for, be good stewards for the taxpayers' money. Commissioner, excellent questions. I'm in full support of this site simply because it's a site I remember back when the church originally developed there, it was just a separate parcel that they bought, and they didn't want to pay for the frontage because it was more expensive as the time as it is, of course, today. We've looked at multiple sites. Some of those were part of other developments to build the police department. Problem that is we'd have to wait for them to put the infrastructure and all the other things. Water's there, all the utilities there. It's already a centralized, recognized location. The pricing is good. This commission has stood behind us in multiple other projects and pieces of property that we bought, especially over the last 2 years. Thank you very much. We can move quickly on this. The GO person that I contacted, oddly enough, Captain and I were talking this evening, is the same person that they're already utilizing. So they're on set, ready to go, do phase one, to do the GO on the property and to make sure it's a buildable piece of property. So I think for long-term for the city, we could have built something on Clemens Road. But when you look at the site work, excavation, things of that nature and cost, it'd probably be quite a bit more than this. So as your city manager and a former police chief myself, I can tell you, I think this is by far probably the most ideal location.
I think our city attorney had some few things to add.
Just very briefly, and good points, Commissioner Mullally. We do have a 60-day due diligence to inspect anything and everything. Within 15 days after the contract signed, the seller is supposed to provide us any engineering, any geotechnical information he has as well. Those regulations, et cetera, are very comprehensive and include any number of items for the actual closing to take place. Also on your question about the contractor having experience, I think that's why the parent company was chosen. They built the Williamson County Jail and Judicial Center, Dixon County Jail, Murray County Jail, scores of buildings at Vanderbilt stadiums. I'm familiar with them because one of my classmates from Vanderbilt is one of the owners. He just retired. But they have a tremendous reputation. I do a lot of litigation with contractors, subcontractors, in most litigation involving construction. The owner sues the contractor, then the contractor sues everybody that ever walked on the property to say the reason for these problems is your fault. I've got probably 60 cases going now with construction issues, and to parent company's credit, they aren't in any of them, but they've been involved in a lot of buildings. So in the what it's worth, but with a new building, that'll be rebid again, but you've got a good starting point with the parent company.
Commissioner Mullally, I don't know if you had any follow-ups.
Well, I do. On the rebid, since this now is going to be a new 2-story proposed on a new piece of property, wouldn't this have to go out again for rebid?
I'll have to refer to Dana on that one.
No, what we actually bid was the construction management services. We did not ask for a hard cost construction bid. We wanted them to give us a good faith estimate of what we were looking at. So this construction management company that we chose, they do have extensive experience in building police departments. So we selected them. They are to work with our architects to develop the construction documents specific to whatever needs we have. Then at that point, once they have those, then they bid and they get a hard price for the project. So we just asked them, we need an estimate. We need to know what we're looking at. And so that's what we interviewed 4 of them, and all 4 of them brought back prices to us, and they were all within a pretty close range of 15 to 17 million for the total project. Now this will change now that we've changed the scope of the project, but we selected parent company because of their experience and their presentation, and we were very impressed with them. So they are the ones that will actually be the ones bidding it, but it's all open, it's transparent. We can see everything that they're doing.
And if I could add, Dana, to that, and what the construction manager at risk allows us to do is it allows that relationship between the architects and the construction to adjust the cost, right? So if we're high in this area, we want to stay at a certain number, we can start cutting in areas to try to get it to something that's what's feasible for everyone here, rather than just doing a design, bidding it out, and then having that contractor build what was designed. And it may not be right in the price that we want.
Okay. I mean, I do like the location. I think it's perfect. I just had some concerns.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, so I had some contingencies subject to. Do you want to go through one? Like I'll make a motion and then we can discuss it as we go.
You have the floor.
Okay. One, an independent appraisal value. If it comes in less than the asking price, the city reserves the right to terminate the contract and negotiate another one at a lower price to come back to the BOC for approval. I can't hear you. Yeah.
Fast.
An independent appraisal value to have it appraised. If it comes in less than the asking price of 1.1 million, the city reserves the right to terminate the contract and negotiate another one at a lower price to come back to the BOC for approval.
That's the motion.
Mhm.
Do we have a second? There's no second on that,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Number two, a complete geotech study or studies based on Mount Juliet Public Works Department's discretion and requirements, along with their satisfaction of the completion of the final study. If the study were to show the site is unbuildable, the city reserves the right to terminate the contract. If the study or studies were to show any issues can be remedied, therefore built upon, the city reserves the right to terminate the contract. If the city manager and the Board of Commissioners agree that the cost of correcting any pending issues is deemed to be too expensive.
All right, is there a second? No second.
All right,
Commissioner.
number three. There are no timeline extensions listed after the closing date of May 12th. That will be, and I think that should be corrected. So I'm motioning that that would be corrected for an extension. There's no mention of any extensions. There needs to be extensions added in the contract pending relevant studies and appraisal. Would it not? If it were to go beyond 60 days. If it, say if it were to go beyond 60 days.
If it's a, yeah,
Because
if it's a question. Yeah.
nothing
a
in the
question, I can
contract
answer that
allows
for
for
you.
extensions.
You go into a real estate contract with the intention that there won't be any extensions because it will close on time. And it's when one or the other of the people involved in the contract says, okay, well, I got a problem, that's when an extension will be granted or not granted. So that's when the extensions go through. You don't go in anticipating and setting timelines on extensions prior to.
Okay. I'm not a realtor.
No, you're
so
fine. I just
I
happened
just
to deal with
noticed
it.
there weren't any options for extensions.
Right. Well, there are, but they're set by real estate law. They're not necessarily set by an individual real estate contract.
Okay. So there's no second on that one, I'm assuming.
It's already there, so there's no need to.
All right. Number four, anything regarding easement restrictions, if needed, and I could defer to Andy. Okay. Do you know if there's any easement restrictions on the property? You don't know?
We're doing there's a survey required under the contract at our expense, plus he'll turn over whatever other information, plus there's a title search that I think comes back within 10 days after the contract signed. That title search will list all the encumbrances, including easements, setbacks, all those sorts of things.
Okay. So that's like a typical,
It's part of.
something already written in. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you for your patience. Like I say, I don't read contracts all the time. Well, rarely, actually. All right. Page 3, you need to look at this. Page 3 of the contract, which is packet page 52, line 110, which is number 3 under conditions on closing.
Okay, did you say page 52?
Packet page 52,
Okay,
which is page 3 of the contract.
I got it. Thank you.
Okay, line 110, which is number 3 under conditions on closing. I would like to add at the end, after the word regulations, comma, and conditions required for purpose of building a municipal building for the city of Mount Juliet and to be at the sole discretion of representatives of the city of Mount Juliet. It's understood, but a purpose isn't mentioned. It's too vague.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, that would be a Gino, Mayor, if I may. What you're asking for here is for us to put in a contingency on a contract that has already been signed. So at this point, what you're going to have to do is go get an amendment to the contract, wouldn't you, Gina?
I mean, we can change it and provide it. Has it been delivered to Mr. Merritt?
Yes.
He signed, have you signed it, Ken?
No.
Yeah,
He hasn't,
that's what
but Mr. Merritt has signed it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we'll just have to ask them and say, hey, we want to add this, but I think it's already covered by the 60 days. But if you want to add that, it'll be suitable for constructing a municipal building, 2-story, approximately however many square feet, you can stick that in there.
Man, you were talking about completion of all environmental studies needed to satisfy all federal, state, and local regulations. If a piece of property is not suitable to build, and then I don't think we're under any obligation at that point to buy that property, are we, Mr. Marchetti?
The environmental regulations, those conditions are limited to environmental regulations. So if we want to add additional geotechnical, those sorts of things, then that would be a separate one. But it's also subject to the approval of legal counsel, and that's when I would say,
No.
this is no good because you don't have that. So I'll put that in. If y'all want to pass that as an amendment, I'm fine with that. Give me some guidance.
Well, actually, it's already in there. Approval by legal counsel representing the city of Mount Juliet.
Or the specific that'll be suitable for a municipal building, however many square feet. Any idea?
About 40,000 to
40,000
42,000.
square feet Municipal building.
So,
Won't that change based off of?
yeah, it would.
Make sure that we,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
so wouldn't that change if we do find out that the cost is too much and all of a sudden we go back to the architect and say, go from 40,000 down to 35,000 to meet this cost? Would that change this contract or would this
No,
be?
that's our option, whether or not to cancel the contract.
No, I'm saying as the project is in the middle of the contract,
Right.
the building is being built.
Right. If it goes to 35,000, that's our option to cancel the contract, not his.
Okay. I see. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. It sounds like y'all seem to be on the same wavelength here with this. And can you repeat? Well, I think you were asking a question. So do you want to present a motion now?
Yeah, to add the following at where the location where I mentioned. Do you want me to repeat
Well,
that?
you're talking
That
about
would
at the
be
end of
great.
3. What was
I've
your-
already texted you to send me all of your amendments.
okay, yeah.
Whether seconded it or not.
Okay. It was comma and additions required for the purpose of building a municipal building for the city of Mount Juliet and to be at the sole discretion of representatives of the city of Mount Juliet.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a second. The item is on the table for discussion.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, Vice Mayor.
rather than tie that to the contract, can we, Mr. Marchetti, rather than tie that and put that into the contract and go through the amendment process and everything, can we actually just put that into the actual resolution rather than the contract, which will not change the contract, but will actually enhance the language within it?
And it would bind the approval process on our end.
I'm sorry.
It would bind the approval process on our end.
Right. It does what she's wanting to accomplish, right? But
Yes.
it's not changing the contract itself. It's just it's actually putting in concrete what you're saying.
Yeah, and
If we
it
do
gives
it
a
inside the-
purpose.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it gives a purpose.
Right,
It
right, but
states
we're
a
not putting it in
purpose.
the contract because, I mean, it already is within the contract, but we're putting it within the resolution that goes with the contract. Does that make sense?
So basically you'd be instructing staff for the guidelines that you're giving without needing to get the other party involved. to
Right,
amend the
exactly.
Contract. I think it's where you're going.
Yes, no, that's exactly where I'm going. That's right. Mr. Marquetti, is that accurate what we're saying?
That works.
Okay. All right.
We are not going to buy this dirt if this land is not suitable to build whatever we need to build.
So what I would like to do, I guess at this point, I would like to amend.
Make a motion to amend.
Yeah, I would make I get kind of confused here, but make a motion to amend using her language in the resolution. Or if you want to use that and make that amendment, and then I'll second.
Okay, second, motion.
Well, we'd make an
Second.
amendment to the amendment in this case, would it not? So,
Mending the amendment.
correct. So we're going to amend the amendment using the exact same language,
Okay,
but we're going to use it in the resolution rather than in the body of the contract.
okay, I
I
second.
like it.
All right, any other questions or comments on the amendment to the amendment? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. All right, that brings us back to the resolution as once amended.
All right. Page 2 of the contract, which is on agenda packet page 51, on line 51, under inspection. It states 60 days to evaluate the property. But the date of May 12th listed on line 86 for letter A, which is a closing date under closing, is not actually 60 days. Even if Kenny signs tonight, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe 60 days from tonight would be May 13th. So if that's the correct date, for example, if the contract is signed tomorrow, 60 days would be May 14th. So if it's signed tonight, that needs to change to May 13th. If it's signed tomorrow, it needs to change to May 14th and so forth. So my motion is to have an accurate date. When are you going to sign? What is the plan to actually sign the contract?
As soon as the commission approves. if they
Okay, so
vote,
tonight, say?
Probably tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So the motion, I guess, is pending Kenny's signature, that the date would coincide with 60 days. So if he signs tomorrow, the date would be May 14th. So that's my motion.
Could we draw a line through it in both parties' initial, the date change?
Sure, and what we may want to do is have the closing 15 days after the end of the due diligence period. That'd be a problem.
So you're saying 75 days total to close.
Well, yes, 15 days after the 60 days, assuming it doesn't get extended. If it gets extended, then you don't disappear on your May 12th date or May whatever date. Rather than pin it down to a specific date, just say 10 or 15 days after the expiration of due diligence period.
Does that require an amendment to the contract?
Yeah, they just need to scribble something in there.
Quick question. If for some reason or other we get all the studies, they all come back on the positive side and also meet with Mr. Barrow and have him review as well and walk the property, it could be that it could close before then.
Yeah,
Possibly.
or such other time as the parties may agree upon in writing. So it's ready to move forward.
Yeah.
You can move forward in 20 days.
Last thing we want to do is cost any more money.
Once again, are we in has this been seconded?
It has not.
Okay.
I think it's a question at this point.
Yeah, it's okay. Just trying not to violate anything. We're having some secret squirrel conversation down there, I think. So what's
Your
did y'all come up
secret-
with a
secret?
secret squirrel? Okay.
Secret squirrel, they wouldn't have.
Just check.
Dinner plans.
Again, I don't have a problem with this. Does this impact the contract at all?
Yes, we have no contract now.
Okay, what I'm talking
Number
about is,
one.
does this impact what
You
she's
would have to
saying
go
here?
back to Mr. Merrick and say, instead of closing on May the 12th, we want to do it 15 days after the date of the due diligence approval.
Well, how does that work when the city manager said go through a 30-day study and due diligence period instead of a 45-day? So, or 60 days. So, I mean, if he's comfortable and everybody's comfortable, Andy Barlow's comfortable, in 30 days, then we can close early.
Correct.
Okay, well, adding 15, what I'm looking at there is
15
you add
days from the date of due diligence.
since
or as the
15
parties
days after
agree.
due diligence is completed.
Right.
That work, I mean,
Right. That's a deadline.
okay.
The parties can always agree to close earlier than that.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure we weren't extending this thing out 6, 7, 8 months down the road. Okay, so have you got some language we can put in there that would be,
It'd just be on or before 15 days after completion of the due diligence period. Capital D, capital D, capital P.
okay. That, will that work? I mean,
So the contract's going to be reworded. May 12th is going to be taken out and is going to be reworded on closing date under closing to state
Just what I said.
15 days after the
due diligence.
due diligence.
End of the due diligence period.
On or
Capital D,
before.
capital D, capital P. On or before.
Okay,
That's
That's
a
good.
motion.
Yeah, and I'll
That's a
second that.
motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we got a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
all right.
Any opposed? All right, back to the resolution as twice amended.
Two little minor things. Page 8 of the contract, which is packet page 57, line 355, under number 19, time limit of offer.
Did you say packet page 57?
Uh-huh.
And
Line 355,
got it.
under number 19, time limit of offer. The date listed is March 11th. Well, today is the 14th.
In your question.
So I'm just pointing that out, why a past date is on a contract when today we're on the 14th. So that obviously needs to change.
Guess this is null and void.
If I'm not mistaken, you don't look at it and see, but I believe that the date
That's when we received it.
was, the date was initialed by Mr. Merritt and changed on that. You can look on that and see. Gino, I don't know. There was a date change. I don't know what it was that Mr. Merritt was telling us about when he came in earlier.
At the bottom, it looks like 3/14/2022.
Is that what it was
At 1
accepted date?
o'clock. That's the date he accepted,
Okay.
but there really hadn't been an offer, so that's, because Kenny hadn't signed it. I mean, there's an offer by virtue of a contract, but until it's voted on by this group, it really isn't an offer. But we can change that date. That's a date when we tell Mr. Merrick, you've got to let us know something back or our offer's off the table. Now, we can put the 20th for that matter.
So that's from his position, not our position. Is that
That's
right?
Us saying our offer to purchase this property is going to expire if you don't accept it by X date.
By the 11th.
Right. So we can change it to
Just change the date.
whatever, 18th, 14th, 18th, 16th,
Okay.
however long he needs to.
Well, I knew it
ponder on
didn't sound
No,
right.
he's already turned the signed copy in. All we're waiting on now is an approval from the commission and Mr. Martin to sign it. So,
Right, but there's been some changes which he may want to consider for a day or two.
Okay. So
I
I
mean, he
motion
can
to change
accept
it to what?
tomorrow when they hand it to him. This is just to protect the city, so it's not an open-ended for the rest of his life
Right.
offer.
Okay.
so
Well, it
it's
just
not,
didn't make.
so you can handle it, is what you're saying, basically.
Just change it to the 18th.
Okay. Motion to change to 18th?
The date in paragraph 19.
That's March 19th, 18th.
March. What'd I say?
You said 18th, isn't it? Confirming
Oh,
March.
okay.
So you have a motion to change the date to March 18th. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. Any comments, questions, or discussions? All right, all in favor of the change to March 18th, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That carries. Back to the resolution as 3 times amended.
All right, this may be something that's, not that important either. Also on page 8 of the contract, the same page, packet page 57, at the bottom on line 387, there's a date listed there of 310.
That's it. That's when he signed this.
Okay, so that's
He
just,
initialed it to 314. Right. He'll need to re-sign it and redate it when he accepts the offer.
okay, so that the way that's stated right now is irrelevant.
That'll change.
Okay, well, that's all I had.
All right. Any other questions or comments on this? Well, I'll just add, I'm very comfortable with this land. It's actually, this is the 3rd time we've looked at this land as a city. I think the first time was under Parks. The second time we would actually discuss the site for a city hall location possibly. And now it just seems to make real good sense for a police station. The proximity to parking lots and everything else that we have there that just kind of naturally lend this spot to some unique values that we may not find anywhere else. So anyone else? If not, all in favor of the resolution as amended 3 times, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. That,
Thank y'all.
for the record, that passes 3, 1 absent, and 3, 4, 1 absent, 1 abstention, and no nays. Next order of business is 11.5, a resolution to transfer previously appropriated funds within the police department's capital budget for the purchase of land.
Motion.
Have a motion? I'll second. My first question is can we do this by resolution?
Did I miss something?
Oh. But yes, you're not expending or expanding more. You're just moving it from the same project, basically.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of 11.5 as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Next item is 11.6, a resolution declaring City of Mount Juliet Parks Department property as surplus to be disclosed of at GovDeals auction.
Motion.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion?
Sound
All
like
in-
an auctioneer for a second.
What's that auction?
I know.
All in favor of 11.6, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries. I have on the agenda as the next item is adjournment, but that's not what the screen up there says.
Vice Mayor Justice requested that this morning he called in and requested a resolution authorizing a stop work order on North Town Garden Apartments on all construction except Nonaville Road until the Nonaville Road improvements are completed. And the stop work order, if this is approved, would be effective tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
All right.
Let me clarify this if I may, Mayor. This was in regard to numerous conversations that have been had with the developers of this apartment complex that is on Nonaville Road over a period of time. And I don't know if Mr. Barlow's still here or not. There he is. I mean, we're talking about from October to today. We're talking about a stretch of road widening, and I'll explain why I'm about to defer it. Ask for a deferral. But
Well, how about,
this is putting them in a position where they know this is going to come
okay,
if they don't do right.
this has not been, it's not part of the agenda.
No, sir.
So
I was asking for an emergency. on
I
this.
would look to you for a motion to suspend the rules,
Well, then that's what I just did. Yes.
and I will second.
You missed it. I'm sorry.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules with a second on this. This will require a 2/3 vote, which I think is the same as a majority here with our
Pretty
current
much, yes.
configuration. So all in favor of a suspension of rules, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, well, rules are suspended, so we can consider this. I'll read the resolution for the record. A resolution authorizing a stop work order on North Town Garden Apartments on the construction except Nonneville Road completion effective Tuesday, March 15, 2022 at 8 a.m. Is there a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. All right, this is on the table.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, I'll give you the floor.
Apologize for the procedural snafu on my part. This has been going on for a long time at the apartments. They put out barrels over there, and then on numerous occasions we've had PD, we've had Public Works having to go over there and remove the barrels out of the roadway. It's become a traffic hazard. I've got people who are calling me that they've hit the barrels. Some have run off of the road in that location. It's just a constant battle with these folks. And if I could get Mr. Barlow to come up to the microphone, maybe he can. I think as it stands right now, we have 26 emails that I'm aware of going back and forth between these people. And they have not been able to get a 100-yard stretch of road widened to 3 lanes in 4 months. Since October is when they started this. And so I'll let Mr. Barlow explain the rest as to why we're talking about this tonight anyway.
I'll make it sound worse than that. They actually started this, I think, late July. It's been, I think they've been over their heads a little bit on what they anticipated the work was going to be. They expected to be finished in October.
Sorry.
Yeah. And so here we are 6 months later, going on with the work. It's been a litany of issues, all kinds of different things I won't even get into, but I will say, last fall, the urgency to get the road work done was not there. We have gone through various levels of communication with them, as the Vice Mayor mentioned, and meetings on site, emails, calls, etc. And as of today, they actually, I think, finally finished paving the binder on that side of the road, which is on the west side of the road. So they still have a ways to go. They have to work on the east side of the road. And then they also have to actually widen Nonneville Road at Lebanon Road to add another turn lane. So for my staff, our direction to them, we do not want them opening up one other area before they get one they have done. And so they're finally finishing up the west side of the road widening today. They'll have to come back in and repave that later. But we're having them work in one area at a time because the issues that we've encountered with them, we do not want to open up multiple construction areas at one time with this work that we've had going on. So I'd say they're still, from the work that they've got left to do, they're still several months out. We have done several things. We have held permits, building permits. We've held inspections for a time to want to see them moving in the right direction. Those proved to be pretty effective. I think that we got a little more urgency out of their attention to the road work out of that. The work is what it is now. I think if they would have had this urgency back in August, I think we would have been done last fall. But it's water under the bridge at this point, as far as I'm concerned. So I'd still say that they probably are not going to be done with everything until, I would say, this summer. Ultimately, I've spoken with Gino about this. They will not be able to have any certificate of occupancies until all of the road is finished. Road work is finished. And we're talking, they've still got a ways to go. Listen, their critical path is getting the road work done because they're already working on some buildings out there. They're going up on some of the buildings. They're probably going to be wanting to turn over some of those buildings, and the road work, with our trustworthiness of what they've been able to do or not been able to do, how we're going to have them phase out the road work is going to be a critical path item for them. So the urgency is in place back on them to get it done and get it done expediently.
Now, and I will add to this that obviously this is the road I live on. I travel it 6 to 8 times a day. And I operate as a commissioner under the my cup runneth over theory. When I start getting phone calls, that means that they have probably discontinued calling Andy and Kenny, and they have decided that they were going to now make my cup runneth over. And so that's when I become a little bit irritated that they have ignored the expertise that Andy and Matt and the guys at our public works. They just have ignored them. After I sent the email today asking for this to be put on the agenda, I received an email from I'm not sure what his title is.
I don't either know.
Asking for a meeting on Wednesday, I think it was. And I told him that I wasn't going to do that until after I had some direction from this commission and Mr. Barlow and the city manager. So what I would like to do at this point is, since they did get it paved today, the magic wand magically appeared out of nowhere. But I would like to go ahead and defer this for one meeting and give us an opportunity to have conversation with them to see if we can't come up with a plan that they're not going to ignore this time. Is that okay?
I'll second your deferral for one meeting.
Okay.
All right. Any questions, comments, discussion on the advisement of deferral? All right. All in favor of deferral for one meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. This item is deferred until our next regularly scheduled meeting. With that, we will go back into regular session if there's no objection. And hearing no objection, we're back into regular session. Our next item on the agenda is adjournment. We'll stand adjourned unless I hear an objection. We're adjourned.
Bless it.